Hi everyone, this is a 2-in-1 special. We're doing a breaking news regarding USCIS's cancellation of Bridge the Gap memo, as well as a change of status success story, because it's very much related. You'll see how complicated it used to be and how easy it is now. I'm gonna explain how do you change your status and how do you do it effectively and what USCIS is looking for. Let's get to it. Hi everyone, this is Joseph. I'm the managing partner here at Zahn Associates, where we solve legal problems with creative solutions. Now, changing your status to an international student F1 visa, it sounds easy, it should be easy, but it is in reality one of the most difficult things. And I do a lot of difficult cases. This one is up there. Now, let me explain why. The form itself, filling out a 539 either online or on paper, is relatively simple. But there's all these things that come with it that makes it highly complex. Let's list a few. The first thing is if you check the wrong box, your entire application could be denied, right? So that's one thing. Now that applies to most cases, but especially for something like this, because there's a lot of things that's confusing about the form. Second thing, the adjudication process for changing a status is actually a long time. In years past, filing a change of status might only take 2 months to 3 months. That's very reasonable. Let's say you're a tourist and you fall in love with the US and you want to stay here and you want to study a little bit. Maybe you want to study jewelry or art or dance or fashion design. There's so many opportunities here. And so you apply to a school, they give you an I-20, you fill out the 539 application and then you wait. 2-3 months goes by, it gets approved and you start school. That's relatively straightforward and that's how it's supposed to be. But in the past few years, and it's not just because of COVID, the adjudicating time for a change of status can exceed 7 to 8 months. So picture this, you come into the US, your status is about to expire in February and in January, and you decide you want to go to school. So a school accepts you and the start date is in March. Well, you file the change of status and it doesn't get adjudicated until October, right? August or October. By then your school already started, you're out of status, sorry, your case gets denied, you gotta go home, right? So the adjudicating time is that long. Now, let's say you're sophisticated, you consulted an attorney, and you know that the adjudicating time is that long. So you apply for a change of status and you find a school that starts in November. Well, now there's this entire period that you're waiting and then November starts, right? So it takes, your case gets approved in October and then suddenly November starts. Well, what if your approval date is in August? Now there's suddenly a gap, right? A multiple month gap. Well, then you're supposed to file a second 539 change of status to bridge the gap. That's a legal technicality. You're supposed to be in legal standing in order to change to a different status. So if there's a gap, well, sorry, you have no legal standing. It's kind of like a diving board. You don't have anything to stand on to jump to change. So therefore, your case will be denied. And that's the new memo. That's the breaking news. For the longest time, people had to file 2 applications. Some people don't know about it. Some people know about it, but they didn't put 2 filing fees. One officer gets one application and another officer didn't know that the second officer got the application and the case gets denied. So there's all these inconsistencies and complications. Let me show you how it works in real life and I'll walk you through step by step. I'll take a current case that we have and we just got an approval on and I'll share that with you so you can see how it works. Now, this case was approved prior to this memo being released, so we're super happy because it's super complicated, but you'll see how much simpler it would be had this memo came out a year ago or 2 years ago, right? So we have an L1 and L2 client. They are managers of an international corporation, but they no longer want to continue their job and they want to be a student. So this was around October of last year. Now, the complicated thing is if they want to be a student and if a school gives them an I-20, they might only give them a start date I-20 maybe around January. If they file their change of status in October, well, if it takes 7 to 8 months in order for them to start school in January, they'll miss the start date and they can't start school until their case gets approved. So what do they do? So what we did was we changed from their L1, L2 status to a B1, B2 status, meaning a tourist status, in lieu of an F1 and F2. Now they go from L1 and L2 to a tourist in order for them to seek out a proper school for them to go to school and they apply. In the process of applying, if there's a gap in the period, then we file a second 539. So in essence, because there's a family of 4, we file like 16 different 539s. It's a lot of paperwork. We have to document in each one of these applications how they did not violate any of their status, what their intent is, how much savings they have in order for them to change to the appropriate visa category. It's a lot. Had this memo been out back then, we could have simply changed L1, L2 directly to an F1 visa. You might be asking, well, that doesn't really solve the problem you mentioned earlier, right? If they are executive managers here now in October, but school start date is January, and then their approval date is in October, that's a long time. You're still missing class. But you could file first and say, if you missed class, if you missed the first I-20, you can provide a second I-20. And USCIS tend to give a request for evidence. Oh, you missed class, now provide a second I-20. And then maybe by September or October time, you provide the second I-20, then it gets approved, then you go, right? So all you have to do is just coordinate with the school so you can time the I-20 correctly. In the past, if your case gets approved and there's more than 30-day gap between your start date, then you need to file a second set of 539 application to fill in that gap. Now, you no longer need it. Once your case gets approved, even if it's 60 days, 90 days, 120 days, it's okay. You're in lawful status here. You just can't work illegally. That's the thing that they focus on. So that's the big update for this cancellation of the Bridge the Gap memo. In the memo, it says this will significantly reduce work for both the applicants as well as for the government and reduce cost. You don't know how much cost this is reducing for so many people. You know it's a huge deal for the government when they cancel application fees because everywhere else, they're increasing it, right? So some application fees are $1,200. Now it's $2,500. And that's per person. We have a whole family. It might be like $5,000, $10,000. And in this case, they're just completely canceling out. You don't need to file a second application. We're just gonna review it. It makes good sense. It's efficient. It's clear. It saves a lot of work for everyone. I love it. I love it. I love it. Love it. I love how things are more efficient now. Things are a lot more clear. If you have any questions about this process, you wanna reach out, feel free to let me know. Would love to jump on a call and talk about it. All right, take care. Bye-bye.